And we welcome you inside the Pacific Toyota Dealers studios in downtown Vancouver. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. I'm Jeff, he's Irf, and we are back. Yeah, dusting this countertop off and some of the other things around the studio. Last time we did this, the Abbotsford Canucks were hoisting the Calder Cup. Feels like a lifetime ago, but summer has come and gone, and hey, it's hockey season again, and that means Rink Wide is back for another year, and I'm excited, and I hope you are as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Pumped to be back, chomping at the bit to get things going again. Obviously, here in our studio, it'll be you and I for quite some time for a lot of the games this season, but definitely excited and lots of storylines to talk about already, Jeff.
Absolutely. Bags are packed. I'm heading to Penticton for the start of training camp on Thursday, so we thought, why not? Let's kick things off with a little preseason preview here on Rink Wide. Of course, you think of Rink Wide as a post-game live stream, and it is, and we will be back for all 82. Plus, we'll get going later in the preseason. We're still ironing out the details, but I think we'll do a couple of preseason games as well to make sure we hit our stride for the season opener on October the 9th. But we've also got some other changes that we're going to get to around Rink Wide as well, and you're going to stick around for that. But we are going to take some time. We'll look ahead to the season. We'll look back at the offseason and give you some thoughts on how we feel about this hockey club as it gets set to launch into the 2025-2026 National Hockey League season. Rink Wide brought to you in part by Bet365, and we thank Bet365 for being back on board. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, use code NATION to get you started. A reminder, you must be 19 years of age or older. Please play responsibly. All right, look, Canucks missed the playoffs last year. Huge disappointment. We won't get into too much detail. I think they've turned the page. Yeah. We have probably turned the page as well. But it is a baseline because we know 2 years ago they were a 50-win, 109-point season. Everything that could went right for them then. Last year it was really the other end of the spectrum. And so it sort of leaves us all wondering what to make of a team that really didn't do a whole lot over the offseason. Evander Kane is sort of the shiny object, the one new big change, and then you've got these guys that helped Abbotsford win the Calder Cup last year that are going to be pushing from below. A lot of talk about prospect depth on defense, and we'll see if any of those guys are ready to become everyday National Hockey Leaguers. But were you surprised? I mean, Jim Rutherford made the comments in late April about it would be costly to go and get a second-line center, but it would be even more costly if they didn't, and here they sit. And they're going to camp with the guys that they've had on the roster. So whether they tried, and I assume they did, but we don't know, there wasn't a whole lot of movement around the NHL, let's be honest. But what do we make of the fact that the group you saw is the group that they've got, at least to start this season?
Yeah, I think from even Adam Foote's messaging was, he was comfortable with the way that their centers were going to be deployed if, in fact, they didn't go get one. And that's what has happened right now. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to still want to or look for one at some point this season. But remember all that Marco Rossi talk?
I do.
Right? I think that there was definitely talk, and that's all it really turned out to being. Obviously, he signed an extension to stay in Minnesota. The Canucks definitely tried there, but eerily quiet. And I think that when you talk to a little bit of people or some people around that, thought that the Canucks might be a little bit more active because that is such a glaring need on paper as to what they need. But I think the biggest acquisition that the Canucks have is the guy that is already on the roster that is signed for the foreseeable future. And I think that is one of the things that they're hoping is in fact going to happen, that this guy just comes in, has an absolutely monster year, and he can take care of maybe two positions at center ice.
Well, look, so much of this team's success hinges on what Elias Pettersson they get back. And we know that last year was a massive disappointment, 15 goals, 45 points, the injuries, and of course it dates back further than last year to the All-Star game, really, when he signed the massive ticket here. So he knows it. He's back. He's put on those 6 kilos, Irf, which
me too.
I guess, I think we all have maybe added a little bit over the offseason, but let's hope it's the right 6 kilos, 13 pounds for Elias Pettersson. He said all the right things out at the Jake Milford over a week ago. I've seen him out on the ice at UBC a couple of times. Can't read too much into the summer skates, but boy, you'd like him to make a statement on day one of training camp. And Not that he can prove to the world that he's back with anything he does in Penticton, but you just like to see him be a leader, be invested, and give us a few of the moments that make us remember what made this player so special when he got to 102 points a couple of seasons ago.
Well, and look, preseason for a veteran, the guys have said in the past it's a joke. You try not to get hurt. You go through your motions a little bit. But, Jeff, you're going to be at a lot of these games. You're going to training camp. Like, do you need to see more in the preseason? Like, it has to happen right off the bat, I think. I don't think people can wait until October or November to see something. I think you got to see something. And whatever it is, we're not going to judge him based on UBC skates. Can't judge him based on playing against his teammates in training camp. It's preseason, I think. And it's going to have to be going up against other NHLers or kids vying for NHL spots on other teams.
Right. And that's where I come back to this idea of investment, because last year the knee clearly was an issue. He didn't have his good stuff at training camp. And then that carried over into the regular season, and then we know the season went off the rails for him individually and for the hockey club. And so that's why I say, like, he told us all that, he's had a good summer. He's put on this weight. Hopefully it's muscle. It sounded like a full summer of training. And I think it comes with the territory. When you're making the coin that he's making, he knows it. You're under the microscope whenever you're on the ice. And so for him, that means the first couple of days of training camp, and he can't be hanging around the outside. Like, I want to see him being a driving force. The other thing is he's going to be 27 here soon. Like, he is one of the leaders. He's part of the leadership group. He is a veteran now, even though we've watched him grow up in front of us, and, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago that he broke into the National Hockey League. But I want to see this guy dictate the way things go, even in a training camp. And look, training camp's 3 days of on-ice sessions. Like, it goes by in the blink of an eye. But I don't think it's too much to ask whether it's, trying to make amends for the last 18 months or whether it's trying to live up to the contract that he's got. Whatever he knows how important he is to this hockey club, and I think it has to start showing as early as this week in Penticton.
Well, let's blow the roof off it by me asking you this question. When you look at it, maybe I'm putting you on the spot here, Jeff, but I know you love that. Is there a player that has more pressure on them in the National Hockey League this season than Elias Pettersson?
I think it's a fair question. And there are other guys, and Mitch Marner going to Vegas, and anybody that signed a big ticket. It wasn't a huge year of off-season movement around the National Hockey League, but there's always pressure. Mm-hmm. But no, like, again, given what he makes, given the lack of depth behind him, like, if he's not back, then it all starts to unravel for the Vancouver Canucks, regardless of how well Quinn Hughes plays. We saw last year the captain puts up 76 points, finishes 26 points ahead of anybody else on this hockey club. Quinn's got his own issues, and we'll probably touch on some of those. Certainly last week it was all about Quinn and the brothers. But I think you can expect Quinn to show up and play through all of the distractions. The same couldn't be said about Elias Pettersson last year. And so they need this guy. They need him back in a big way. And that doesn't mean 102 points, but I think it's got to be close to a point per game at the very least. If he can stay healthy and play 80 or 82 games, he's got to be an 80-point guy, I think, for the Vancouver Canucks to get from where they were back to where they want to be, and that's into the Stanley Cup playoffs.
And I think that we talk about, use this phrase a lot, it's dragging a team into the fight. And I think that you talk about the investment, you mentioned that from the player. The team's done it. The ownership has done it. So it's that initial investment. It's, are you willing to take your team into areas that maybe on a Tuesday night in Columbus, the rest of your team isn't really ready to go, but are you going to be the guy? On nights in the past, we've seen past Canucks do it. We've seen Bo Horvat do that a few times in his tenure here. We've seen, Daniel Henrik-Sedin do that. We've seen Quinn Hughes. Hell, last season, he's the only one that did it for majority nights,
JT
right?
Miller used to do
it
here.
Thatcher Demko has been guys that has bailed them out night in and night out. So can he be a guy that, takes that team into the fight when they need him the most?
Yep, and we'll start to get some answers here. We won't get them all, but we will start to see things unfold at the South Okanagan Event Center in Penticton later on this week. I'm glad you brought up Thatcher Demko, because when we talk about pressure is different for everybody, but here's a guy that's going to be 30 in December. This is a guy that got the 3-year contract extension. It'll kick in a year from now, so he's playing out the final year of his 5-year, $25 million deal. Injuries have become part of the Thatcher Demko story. We saw it again last year. At this time last year, we learned the word popliteus. I mean, he really was the story of training camp a year ago when he was there, but wasn't really there because he wasn't able to participate with the rest of his teammates. He would get out on the ice early with the goalie coach and go through some basic motions and movements and was about 60%. And, of course, he didn't start playing until December the 10th, and even then had a month where he was playing catch-up and wasn't truly dialed in. I'm curious to see. I mean, I've watched him a couple of times. Again, informal summer skates out at UBC. You can't read into much there, but I will say the fact that he's on the ice, the fact that he's able to face his teammates, NHL shooters, he looks healthy, and that's knock on wood for him. But there's pressure there too because this fan base wants to get behind Thatcher Demko. They want to see Thatcher Demko, the guy that was a Vezina finalist a couple of years ago. But we know patience runs thin in this market, and if there is another season that is beset by injuries for Thatcher Demko, I do wonder how many in the fan base will say, like, enough is enough. You just can't trust that his body is going to hold up and allow him to deliver the way that the team and the Demko himself wants to. So I think there's some pressure on Thatcher Demko. If there can be pressure to stay healthy, I think there's a ton of pressure on Thatcher Demko.
If we never have to say the word popliteus again, it's going to be a successful season, Chev, for Thatcher Demko. But you're right. And I think the one thing when, just kind of asking people around Demko or what's kind of been going on this summer with his training, night and day the last 2 years. So that's a positive note. To know this guy has been able to go through his workouts, to be able to do everything that he wants to do at the level that he thinks he needs to do it in order to be successful, we can take that as a positive. But as you mentioned, he skates out at UBC, the training camp things. Nothing is going to be for real until he takes that bump from a guy in preseason, until, you get to game 25, 30, 40, whatever it is. But here's what I'll ask you. With all that said about his health status, we haven't even touched on Kevin Lankinen, which he said on himself that he believes that they can be one of the best top two goalie tandems in the league. How many games is enough for Thatcher Demko this season?
Well, I want to see them put a cap on it at 50. I think even if he gets to 50, that's probably a few too many. For me, it's less is more with Demko. Almost a job share in the regular season. I expect that Demko, if he stays healthy, will get more starts than Kevin Lankinen, but it's not about the starts. It's about being there when the Canucks need Thatcher Demko the most, and that would be that they qualify for the playoffs, and he would have a chance to, for the first time in his career, get on an extended playoff run. Of course, he got thrust into the spotlight in the bubble, and then he was the starter in Game 1 against Nashville, and that was the last time we saw him on the ice. Yeah. And so, as he approaches his 30th birthday, he's appeared in 5 Stanley Cup playoff games. Like, that's just wild to me. In the same sort of point of time that he's been in the league, Andrei Vasilevsky's made like 120 Stanley Cup starts. So he's done so much. A Vezina finalist. He's been an all-star. He's got the big contracts, all those things. But the one thing that he doesn't have on his resume is a bunch of playoff games. And he can be a difference maker. We know that. So I hope good health for him. I hope the team around him can perform because I want to see Thatcher Demko compete in the playoffs, but a lot of ground to cover between now and then. So we'll see what happens. As for the workload, Lankinen's one of those guys. Nothing seems to faze him. I think he understands sort of the situation, and obviously last year at this time, he didn't have a contract. He wasn't even in Penticton for training camp, and then we found out that, the guys that they had weren't performing well. The team didn't have a ton of confidence. They felt the need to go get Lankinen. Demko wasn't available till December, and Kevin Lankinen was one of the real stories in the early going last year. He's going to have to be patient. I think he's going to have to accept that he is the 1B in this equation. The other thing that I'm really interested in is Adam Foote, first-year head coach. Some pressure to get off to a decent start. Can Adam Foote resist the urge to play Thatcher Demko if he's healthy? To play him basically every night, because Bruce Boudreau's done it, Rick Tocchet did it, and that's when problems arise. So Foote's been around. He has the sort of institutional knowledge of Demko and the injury issues. I hope that he applies that and knows that you just can't run this guy out every single night. Even if he's healthy and playing well, you got to be careful and get him his breaks. And you've got a capable backup in Lankinen, so they should have confidence. I think that most nights the Canucks should have an edge in goal, whoever they've got between the pipes.
I think maturity as well a little bit on Demko's part. I think Thatcher knows now that he can't go 10 in a row anymore. Right. And I think that comes with obviously being through everything that he has been through, and somehow, some way, he's still got that contract extension here in Vancouver, obviously a place that he wants to be and, have success in. But in order to have that success, in your mind, you have to know what your cap is. And I think that is maturity on his level. But you're right. I mean, is Adam Foote going to be like, oh, I don't know. Is it going to be Thatcher Demko's decision? Is it going to be mine? Is it going to be Marco Torrenius? Like, who's going to be making these calls here? And if it is up to Demko, I think it's at that point now, at what stage that he is in his career, Jeff, is to be where you just said, when they need him the most in March, April, maybe even May, that he's going to be ready and available.
June? How about June?
June would be nice. We'd be working well into the summer in June.
Hey, all season last year, we partnered with the BC Mental Health Foundation as part of our Super Chats. Now, you're seeing this as a recorded version. Of course, we'll get into live streaming after the games, and then we'll ask you to hit us up with a Super Chat, make a quick, small contribution, or big contribution. Whatever you can spare, make a contribution, get your thoughts, your questions, your comments right to the top of the queue. The BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. We're also excited that Greta Bar is back on board, and I'm looking forward to getting down there for Canucks Army watch parties. Greta all season, they're big on making a great place to gather with friends, watch the games. Of course, they're big on social events of all kinds and corporate fun. So if you're looking for a place to get out of the office and get your group together, consider Greta. All the arcade games, the street food menu, the weekly drink specials. Greta Bar, the place to be. 50 West Cordova, Greta Bar. Let the games begin. And Irf, I have heard through the grapevine. Actually, I was in the meeting, so I heard it directly. There is a plan to do at least one Rink Wide live at Greta this season. So more details as they become available. We haven't narrowed in on a date and an opponent and all that kind of stuff. But, I think we're taking the show on the road. So stay tuned for some details there. And certainly we hope that you'll come down and be a part of our live studio audience. We'll have some fun then, and we'll tie it all in with one of those Canucks Army watch parties. We mentioned Quinn. We kind of glossed over it. Obviously, it was a big deal last week down in Vegas at the NHL Media Tour. And no surprise, Jack was there. So lots of questions about the brothers and their futures. I'm not going to ask you about that. But through it all, Quinn has said, I'm trying my best to stay in the present and just be mindful of the job at hand. And that is to try to take the Vancouver Canucks from a team that missed the playoffs and was so dysfunctional last year to a team that can compete for a postseason berth. So we know this about Quinn Hughes through all the challenges and the twists and turns and everything else. This guy's a gamer. He just shows up and plays at an extreme level. Like, remember the first half of last season, he was coming off a Norris win and probably took his game to another level before the injury set in around Christmas. What are we expecting from the captain this year?
More of the same. Yeah, he wears that C. He's fiery as hell. He's a competitor. He loves to play hockey, and he's really good at it, right? And
yes, he is.
I think that he's doing a really good job of saying all the right things and doing all the right things, but I think the other thing on top of this is all the stuff that went on last season and the way that it blew up and the way that everything got so public. There's none of that heading into this season. Like, There's no dark cloud hanging over the team. There's nothing that might blow up in your face here with guys that are in that room. Like, this team, by all accounts, is ready to go, and they're excited. They're looking for an opportunity to go and prove to everybody, including themselves, that they're a team to not be taken lightly. And I think it all starts with Quinn Hughes. I will say this though: if we're sitting here at this point at next year, or at the end of this season, talking about Quinn Hughes leading the Vancouver Canucks in scoring, we've got a problem. He needs to play, his regular 20, 25 minutes. He's going to eat a lot of minutes, but there needs to be help for Quinn Hughes. You know what you're going to get out of him every single night, but it can't be him every single night.
I think he can lead the team in scoring. Where I talked about EP40 getting back to 80 points, I could see Quinn getting 90 again the way that he did. I mean, offense is going to be an issue for this hockey club. But I hear you. The gap, certainly, it can't be 26 points, and they need forwards that have more than 50 points like they did last year. And so, they need Jake DeBrusk to level up a little bit more. I mean, 28 goals, career high, but can he be a 30-plus goal guy? Yeah, I think he can. Brock Besser obviously dropped from 40 to 25. He got the contract. They need Brock. It's got to start with a 3. It's got to be a 30-goal season, I think, at the very least for Brock Besser. And then you hope that, there are some others that maybe surprise. And look, Evander Kane on and off the ice, 34 years of age, didn't play last year, but got back for the playoffs, had 12 points in 21 games, and a few too many trips to the penalty box. So, but that comes with the territory, the kind of player he is. What do you think the Canucks are getting in a contract year of Evander Kane at this stage of his career?
Motivation is one. Excitement, another one. I think he's pumped to play in Vancouver. I've always said that, of guys that want the spotlight and are good at being able to handle the spotlight, being from here, he was always someone that I think that could do well in Vancouver. I also think that, at earlier in his career, maybe Vancouver wasn't a first choice for him, but now, there was always a time that he did want to play here at home in front of his family and friends night in and night out. I think you're getting 25 goals. And I think I think the expectation from the management is that as well for Evander Kane. I think that they can go out. They think that if he can play and stay healthy, that's the key. If he can play and stay healthy, I think that they're looking at 25 as the number for him. Now, whether he plays with Filipino or Elias Pettersson, that remains to be seen. But I still think that there's a pathway for him to go and do that. They don't really have anyone that has his type of game. Right? He's big. He's tough to play against. He's not afraid of getting in front of the net. And he's a guy that can put the puck in the net. Brock Besser's a goal scorer. Evander Kane can create goals, right? Just by the way of doing things differently than a guy like Brock Besser. So I think 25 is a good number, and I think that that's a number that would be a realistic goal for Evander Kane this season.
I think the Canucks would sign up for 25 goals from Evander Kane right here. Right now, at the other end of the lineup, we talked about Abbotsford in the Calder Cup. There's all these guys, you all know the names, Linus Karlsson, Max Sasson, Arshdeep Bains. They're all going to be pushing. Vitaly Kravtsov sort of came out of nowhere late in the summer to return. He, too, is going to be pushing, coming off some success over in the KHL. Is there anybody in that group that you think has a leg up, or anybody that you're going to be watching particularly closely to see if they're the guy that can lock down, one of the few spots that's truly up for grabs in the opening night lineup? It's
going to be tough, but if Linus Karlsson can bottle up anything that he did in the Calder Cup playoffs and use that confidence and use that win heading into training camp that can propel him to a spot, I think he's a guy that can fight for something there. Max Sasson, an interesting one as well, had a really good playoff run down in Abbotsford. Atu Ratu, they need him. He's going to be on. They need him to win faceoffs. I heard that his name was kind of being thrown around in trade rumors, or if there was something from Minnesota, he was a guy that may have been involved if there was anything. But I think the Canucks realize that that's a player that they need, especially with their center ice depth and lack thereof right now. So that's a guy that you can put in. Arshdeep Bains, I think, will get his chances this season. I'm not entirely sure if a regular everyday spot, but Linus Karlsson's a guy that I'm looking at to see that if there's a spot in this lineup, I think it's his to go and get.
Vancouver Canucks season is just about to go. The Vancouver Canadiens season just came to an end, but there's already excitement building for 2026 out of the Nat. We want to take a moment to thank the C's for their support of all of our Vancouver shows here at the Nation Network. Planning already underway for another great season of promotions and giveaways that make a night at the Nat so much fun and a terrific outing for all. So for all the offseason news around the Vancouver Canadiens, be sure to check out the website, CanadiensBaseball.com. We're going to get to some changes coming here at Rink Wide momentarily, so stick around for that. Let's just finish up with a quick thought on sort of these young defensemen as well. DPD got in his 28 games last year. He looks NHL ready. There's still room for growth, and I'm sure that they'll help him develop, but loved what I saw in those 28 games from DPD. Obviously, Tom Willander is the first rounder from a couple of years ago, ready to turn pro here. And then you got Victor Mancini in the mix as well. And so you've got this youth movement, certainly some promise at that defense position and an area of strength for the Vancouver Canucks. Those guys are all going to be battling with veterans like Derek Forbort, and P.O. Joseph came in as well as a free agent. So there is some dust that has to settle there before opening night, trying to figure out exactly who slots in. Those names, I think somebody from that group is going to round out the bottom pair, but it's just a question of who slots where, and maybe it's as simple as who steps up at training camp, and then through however many preseason games they all get into. You
mentioned the 28 games from DPD. They love DPD at the Vancouver Canucks, and rightfully so. Big, plays physical, plays smart. That's the most important thing. But Jeff, let's not forget that the farm system isn't far away. It's not a plane ride anymore. It's up the road in Abbotsford. So, and we saw what they just did. Like, your coaching staff there is very good. They know how to develop players.
For sure.
So you can go and have a guy like Tom Willander. If he doesn't crack the NHL lineup, don't panic. He's young. He is going to play NHL games at some point. But sometimes you go to the jungle and you earn your stripes a little bit and you get that experience. Can't tell you how many young guys have credited obviously playing in the American League. But yeah, I think it's Elias Pettersson on defense that is going to be in that spot. And I think they like Forbert. I do. I think that, just for give him that extension and kind of having him there. Now, unless Victor Mancini does some wonderful things in training camp here or someone else jumps off the page, I think that's going to be your 5-6 pairing.
Yeah, I just wonder, Forbert's 33 now, showed obviously his penalty-killing chops last year. Is that one specific skill set enough to keep him in the lineup on a nightly basis? Has DPD done enough to push? Is DPD going to have to stay on the right side right now, and Forbert's going to hold down the left side? P.O. Joseph, had a nice chat with him out at UBC. He's excited to be here. He's sort of more your modern defender, defending with his skating and transitioning the puck. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he said, hey, he's comfortable playing the right. He's done it in the NHL. He's done it in the AHL. And basically said, look, I'll do whatever they want of me. I just want to play. So we'll see if he's more than a seventh defenseman. That's what camp in the preseason is for. So looking forward to it. We're going to be here throughout, as Irf said, about 60 games through the regular season. Harman Dial's going to sit in for a handful of games. We've got Tyson Cole, who was with us during the AHL rink wides that we did. We had some fun, and he's doing some nice work at the Canucks Army as well. So Tyson's going to sit in. He'll do a game a month or so. PJ is around Farhan late in the season when football is over and his schedule clears. So Irf's going to be in the wingman for the bulk of the games, but yeah, we'll have our usual rotating cast on the nights that you are not available. So wanted to lay that out for everybody. The other thing is, and we say this on every episode, but make sure you follow Rink Wide on social, and particularly make a point of subscribing to the Rink Wide YouTube channel. To this point, Rink Wide's always been your go-to post-game live stream and podcast, but this season, we are branching out. And we're going to be posting far more practice and game day content from the rink, videos, player scrums. So hit subscribe, set your notifications so you don't miss a thing. You'll be alerted whenever there's new content popping up on the Rink Wide YouTube channel. And this is exciting as well because we talked about the live show at Greta. But Rink Wide's also going to take the show on the road a couple of times this season. We've got plans to do like we did in the playoffs a couple of years ago, where you'll be here holding down the fort in studio, and I'm going to head out on the road to cover the Vancouver Canucks. So we will bring you coverage from some road games. Again, just nailing down the dates and trying to figure out our travel plans and the schedule. We'll certainly keep you informed. If you follow us on our socials, you'll be among the first to know exactly which games. But I'm looking forward to that. And we just think it brings you one step closer to this hockey club that you follow as closely as you do in this market. And we had some fun, and I think it worked well in the playoffs to Nashville and Edmonton. Maybe there'll be playoffs in the offing again, but we're taking the show out on the road for the regular season as well on a couple of occasions. So already looking forward to that. Yeah,
it'll be great. We got to get that little graphic built for you again, Rink Wide Worldwide, but what city you're going to be in and where we're going to be going this season. It's just for us to bring you better content. And I think that, having you on the road absolutely does that when you're at the rink. Obviously, make sure you guys follow Jeff as well. One of the best in the business at covering this team, if I do say so myself. But yeah, I think that, getting more Canuck content out to the viewer is important. And this show doesn't happen without the people that watch it.
So there you go. Hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel, Rink Wide. More content than ever this coming season. Now, as the season gets going, you've probably just come through fantasy drafts in football. But we're at that point in time as well. Fantasy hockey, top of mind for many, and Daily Faceoff has your back with the brand new DFO Fantasy Draft Kit, your one-stop shop for everything you need to build the perfect fantasy hockey club. We're talking player projections, updated line combos, power play units, sleeper picks, bust warnings, team previews, basically all the tools to make you look like a genius. So before you make your first pick, or you panic in round 5, head over to dailyfaceoff.com/draft-kit. Get your hands on the Fantasy Draft Kit. Fantasy hockey domination starts at dailyfaceoff.com. Go now. Your bragging rights depend on it. All right, there you go. Training camp later on this week. We're going to hear from Jim Rutherford and Patrick Elvine on Wednesday. Adam Foote, I think, is part of that as well. And then we'll let the players' actions on the ice speak for themselves, and make sure you're following Canucks Army and checking out all the content there. We'll have training camp covered. Won't miss a beat. So looking forward to being part of the Canucks Army team that's going to be at the South Okanagan Event Center. We're heading up on Wednesday. First on-ice session is Thursday. And Irv, I'm really looking forward to getting the season going again, a couple of preseason games. And then we'll hit the ground running on October 9th when the Canucks host the Calgary Flames in Game 1 of 82. So the regular season is the roadmap. Lots of twists and turns as always, but I'll leave you with this question. Are you feeling playoff hockey for the Vancouver Canucks this season?
I feel like we're going to be talking about them being a playoff team in March and April. I think that that's a question where that's probably the right answer. I'm not entirely sure. I think that the West, other than the top teams in the West, is very wide open. And I think that if the Canucks can stay healthy, they get good goaltending and someone to score. Who's to say that they're not a playoff team?
And that's, I think, the blueprint right there. If Thatcher Demko of old can stay healthy and be at the top of his game, you got Quinn Hughes. I mean, this defense core is as deep as it's been in a decade.
Yeah.
I think their path forward is to be relatively low scoring, low event. It may not be terribly pleasing to the eye, but they got to put on more of a show for the home fans. The 17 home ice wins in 41 games at the Raj last year, unacceptable. They know it. They got to be better there. Even a handful of more home ice wins, and they would have been knocking on the door of being a playoff team through all the drama last year. So there's no shortage of storylines. That's why we love covering the Vancouver Canucks. And again, we're excited to bring you the best post-game coverage that we can, live streaming moments after the final buzzer each and every time the Canucks step on the ice. So for Jacob Lazar working hard behind the scenes, for Irf, I'm Jeff. Thanks so much for checking out the season preview. And hey, we're a couple of weeks away from doing this for real. So bring it on. New hockey season is here. We can't wait. And hopefully you will join us each and every night right here on Rink Wide Vancouver.